Good evening, everybody. It is 7 o'clock on August 2nd, 2022. This meeting of the Hingham Select Board is called to order. And note for the record, this meeting is being offered remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022 and all other applicable laws, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. If anybody is recording this meeting, if you could just raise your hand to let me know, that'd be appreciated. Seeing none. Note for the record that participating in tonight's meeting from the select board are myself, Chair William Ramsey, Joe Fisher, and Liz Klein. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I believe we have two sets of minutes tonight. Joe, are you ready to proceed?
I'm ready to proceed.
Liz, you ready to proceed?
I am. I'm going to abstain though, Bill, because I didn't participate in those meetings.
No problem. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, then I will take a motion from Mr.
I move
Fisher.
to approve the minutes dated July 19th, 2022.
Second, roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
I'm an aye, and Liz?
Abstain.
Great. Is there another motion, Joe?
I move to approve the minutes dated July 22nd, 2022.
I would second that motion. Roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, and Liz?
Abstain.
Great. All right. Next item on the agenda is to consider the request of Burton's Grill of Hingham, LLC, doing business as Burton's Grill, 94 Derby Street, for a change of LLC managers and change of LLC membership interest. I believe we have here Council Attorney John, is it Moradian?
Moradian, I was close enough.
All right, Council, good to see you tonight. You want to walk us through your request? Go ahead.
Sure. My name is Attorney John Moradian at Democus Law Offices. I'm here on behalf of Burton's Grill. Basically, there's going to be a change of ownership on the upper tier grandparent level of the licensee, and we're seeking a change of LLC managers and a change of the LLC membership interest. This is part of a larger national chain. Burton's Grill operates Red Heat Tavern and Burton's Grill in Massachusetts and in several states up and down the East Coast. The ABCC has approved the inverted process for this, and they've already approved the application. Now I'm going through the local hearings at each of the local towns to get a formal approval with the requested amendments. There'll be no changes to the restaurant. You won't even know anything happened. It's just strictly ownership at the grandparent equity level of the licensee.
All right, Council, thanks very much. Let me check in with our staff. Tom, any concerns expressed to you from the police department or any other administrative concerns we need to be made aware of?
Nope. Sharon Perfetti is here if we have questions, but no, we don't have any, nothing to worry about.
Great, thank you. Let me turn to my colleagues for questions. Joe, do you have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I just, no concerns. I think this is a complete application. I would ask council where Hingham is in the a list of boards that you've gone through. Are we the first, or have you gotten approvals from other boards?
So I had Framingham last week. I had Westboro this morning for Red Heat Tavern. I have you tonight, and then the next 2 weeks I have the remaining restaurants. So I'll be all done by August 22nd, my road show.
And have any of the towns that you have been before raised concerns?
Nope. And like I said, the ABCC has already initially approved this, so they're well aware of what's going on.
I've got no concerns. Giving you assurance that the quality of food will not be changing. So it's because it's a great place. And I have no other questions. Thanks.
Great, Joe. Thank you. Liz, any questions?
No questions. Glad to hear that no significant changes at the local level, but the application looked complete. No concerns with it.
Great. me see if anybody from the public has any questions or concerns. If you could just raise your hand either physically or virtually. Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request of Burton's Grill of Hingham LLC, doing business as Burton's Grill, 94 Derby Street, for a change of LLC managers and change of LLC membership interest in accordance with the application for multiple amendments filed with the town of Hingham on July 7th, 2022, subject to the approval of the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission.
Second.
Motion had been made and seconded. Is there a need for further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor by roll call vote. Liz,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. All right, council, good luck.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank
For your
you.
time tonight. Appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda is a joint session with the Hingham Municipal Light Board to interview candidates for the vacancy on the Municipal Light Board. Potential candidates include Mr. Jonathan Bulman, Mr. Tyler Herrald, and Mr. Benjamin Lee. Now, normally we take applicants in order, but Mr. Herrald has asked to be interviewed first due to another commitment tonight, so we will interview him first. Before, what I'm going to do is the candidates that are not being interviewed, I'm going to ask Michelle if she could put you in the waiting room so you don't have an unfair advantage over questions. But before I let you go, how we're going to proceed is I'm going to let each applicant do a very brief opening statement. You can tell us a little about your experience and why you want to be considered for this vacancy. And then I'm going to ask the members participating, myself, Joe, Liz, Laura, and Michael, to each ask each applicant one question. And what I would ask is that whatever question you choose to ask, that we ask all three applicants the same question to be fair. If there is a pressing need for additional questions, certainly we can entertain that. But just ask everybody gets asked the same questions to be fair to all the candidates. And then once we're done with questions, the candidate is going to have just a brief minute or so to give us a closing if they would like, and tell us anything else that they think we should know about their application. Okay? All right. With that, then I'm going to ask Michelle if you could have Mr. Lee and Mr. Bulman go to the waiting room.
Sure thing. See.
Thank you. Thanks for moderating tonight. Appreciate your help.
I don't see Mr. Bulman though.
I
Does
don't
anyone
either.
else? So if he comes in now, he'll get stuck in the waiting room. And if anyone else pops up there, I'll let them in, but I'll leave him and Mr. Lee there if he shows up.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate your help. All right. Tyler Herrald, good evening to you.
Okay, Chairman Ramsey, if I may, I'd like to take
Yeah.
this opportunity to call to order the meeting of the Hingham Municipal Light Plant Board of August 2nd at 7 p.m. And Chairman Ramsey has already read the virtual meeting disclaimer, so thankfully I don't have to do that again. So, okay, back to you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Laura. Welcome, Laura and Michael. Good to see you. Good to see you this evening. All right. Tyler, tell us a little about yourself and why you want to be considered for this vacancy.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm a little under the weather right now. My family and I have lived here in Hingham for since the beginning of 2015. So, you know, to many people, we're relatively newcomers, although my wife has been on the South Shore her whole life. My work experience has been in the energy industry for over 20 years, and especially dealing in intricacies of the markets, the market rules, market prices and what moves them. I've worked for energy companies and investment banks and different investment funds. And many of the things that I've done in my career have been wholesale and retail load valuation, virtual power plant valuation, lots of transactions with mixes of resources and load obligations that span across the electricity space, but also in the fuel spaces as well. So in terms of my professional experience, I have quite a bit of experience that's very relevant to this job.
Tyler, thank you very much. All right, we're going to start with questions, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the with our partners on the Light Board. So Laura, why don't I turn to you first?
Okay, thank you. So I think that actually Mike is going to kick us off this evening with the first question. So where'd you go,
Sounds
Mike?
good.
There you are. Okay.
Hey, good evening, Tyler. My question is, in order to maintain reasonable rates, reliability, and build resilience, HMLP and the New England Power Grid face a number of challenges as we endeavor to chart a course to our town's 2040 net zero goal. What are these challenges, and what distinguishes your experience to take the helm as a commissioner in this ever-evolving electrification day and age?
Well, I think that there are a myriad of challenges that the town faces, and that's really the reason why I'm here. I think that the choices that we have to make over the next 10 years could be some of the most important choices as a town and as a municipal utility to make that we've made in maybe the last 30. And it has to do with a lot of the changing market dynamics, not only with the increase of renewable resources across the grid, but also our climate goals as a town. And those goals are extremely important, and I completely buy into those. But we just need to be extremely careful in the way that we contract for supply and some of the contracts that we sign with respect to generation resources and everything to manage our supply and balancing obligations. The devil is always in the details, and I've seen a myriad of examples of things that go horribly wrong. And, if I were to be chosen for the board, I would lend my experience to helping make these decisions and to help bring some of this information to light. And, I will be working towards our 2040 goal of net zero.
Great, thank you.
Great. So then next me, Bill, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, Laura, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. So Tyler, thanks for stepping forward to offer your service. And I would just ask what is your, I mean, in some ways you've answered this question already, but your particular talent or skill or experience that you think will be most valuable to meeting these challenges that we're facing?
I think that certainly understanding all the current market dynamics and the intricacies of how the renewable energy credit market, as well as the carbon emissions markets and the energy price formation in New England works, which I've dealt with for a very long time. But also, I think it's my understanding of the way that the market is going to change over the next 10 to 20 years. One of the things that I keep quite abreast of is the expected generation interconnection queue and how the dynamics of that is going to change price formation across New England, as well as in many other areas of the country, to be honest. So I think that it's that forward-looking view of things to come and expected changes that I'm always staying abreast of because of my professional career that can help us make informed decisions as a municipal utility.
Great, thanks.
Laura, thank you. Let's go to Joe.
Sure. So I have a question, but I actually have a preliminary inquiry, which don't want to have this counted as my question, because I looked at your resume and it looks interesting, but there's no discussion about which energy companies you've worked for. You've talked about examples and your involvement in renewable energy credit market, but you didn't identify for whom you have worked. And I'm wondering if you can just add that to your resume so that we have a better understanding.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And to be honest, I'm a little confused because my resume should have all of the companies I've worked for. The version I sent in at least does.
So maybe they just stop you there. So Michelle or Tom, the version that I have is just the Talent Bank application. I don't see anything else. Was there another document submitted that we should have received?
Not that I saw. If there was, Ms. Herrald, if you'd sent one in, we can, we'll locate it and we'll get it around to everybody. Obviously, votes, I don't believe, are happening tonight, so there'll be time to review it. But I believe I only received, or our office only received the Talent Bank application.
You know, Tyler applied for the position that was open back in the winter, and he may have supplied his CV then.
Oh, okay.
And I think that might be what's going on.
Okay.
And in
All right.
fact, I
Well,
know
either
he-
way,
I know
we'll
he
have
did.
it and we can find it. Sure.
Okay,
We
great.
can get it. Yeah, we can get it. We can circulate it to everybody.
But Ty, if you could just give a brief summary, that would be helpful.
Sure. For the first part of my career, I worked in New York for the investment banks, managing their energy trading businesses. The first bank I worked for was Morgan Stanley. The second bank I worked for was JP Morgan, and the third was Credit Suisse. After that, I ran the internal proprietary trading group for Constellation Energy down in Baltimore, which is then purchased by Exelon. But the Constellation name was still kept. And after that, I ran the energy trading and marketing group for Boston Energy Trading and Marketing here in Boston for 8 years. And just recently left to join a new company called Equilibrium Energy, where I'm running their trading and asset optimization businesses. It's a more of a renewable focused company.
Got it. Thank you. So now I'll move to my question. For municipal lighting plants, depreciation expense is the mechanism by which the plant, they can raise capital, they can raise funds for capital replacement and expansion. And under state law, municipal lighting plants, including ours, has a depreciation rate set at 3%, although we can apply to the Mass Department of Public Utilities for an increase. And in the past years, this HMLP has applied for increases from 3% to 5%. My question is, do you think that we should continue to be seeking an increase in the depreciation rate applicable to HMLP in the future? And do you think 5% is the norm at this point?
No, I don't think I know enough to say that I have an incredibly informed opinion on depreciation rates.
But you do understand that that is the mechanism by which necessary capital can be raised for capital replacement and expansion.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Liz?
Great, thanks, Bill. And thank you, Tyler, for applying and being willing to serve. Just building on Michael's earlier question, how do you see the Municipal Light Board playing a role in meeting Hingham's climate action and carbon neutrality goals?
Well, I think it plays an incredibly important role, and especially with respect to the supply portfolio that the municipal lighting plant is going to be likely continuing to contract for over the next 30 years until we reach our goals. I've read some other towns' plans, and I think I find them rather lacking and quite dangerous in some cases, especially with the amount of energy that is being relied upon for spot market purchases, which I don't agree with. I believe that we need to have a better, more secure source of supply than just sourcing from the spot market, which, as we've seen right now, we're seeing some of the highest natural gas prices and energy prices in the last 30 years. And we don't want to expose ourselves to those things, ideally, at least to a large portion of our supply portfolio in the future. There are a lot better ways to handle that than just some of the other towns' plans I've read.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. And my question is, the focus of HMLP has changed quite a bit over the last couple of years. Where do you see HMLP 10 years from now? What do you think the needs of the light plant will be?
I think that the mission is going to be the same, at least with respect to possibly having the additions of certain renewable targets that we may want to hit, or carbon neutrality targets like we have adopted already. So I don't see necessarily a whole lot of changes on that front. I just see a lot of challenges to make sure that we are constantly providing the right kind of service and in terms of the right supply and balancing mechanism for the energy needs of the community. You know, the way that the grid is changing and the way that our demand profile is changing is such that our energy demand as a municipal utility is on an instantaneous basis because of the amount of solar that is being brought online to the grid. That means that during the middle of the day, the rate of change of demand is much higher than it used to be, both in the morning and in the evening. And so making sure that we have the appropriate resources to balance that supply and demand at every point in time is going to be ever more important as we have higher levels of behind the meter solar on our grid. And also considering for such resources like storage to help us meet some of those challenges, I think will be one of the other things that we face in the future. And, you know, I'd say that's about sufficient.
Tyler, thank you very much. Does anybody have a pressing need for additional question?
Nope.
All right, seeing none. Tyler, do you want to take a minute or two in summation just to tell us about anything that we haven't covered this evening?
I think we've pretty well covered things, but you know, just sort of in summary, I'd say that my work experience lends itself really well, and as a member of the community, I wanted to volunteer my time and experience to help out, help the municipal plant and help us meet our renewable net zero goals.
Outstanding. Well, Tyler, you did a great job. It was very nice to meet you virtually. We're going to bring Ben in from the waiting room here. This is a public meeting, so you're welcome to stay if you'd like, or you can leave the meeting as well. You're not required to stay if you don't want to. Just to let you know, I don't think we're going to be voting this evening. I think we are going to, based on my conversation with Laura earlier today, I think we're going to reconvene on the 23rd to vote. So we will we will provide more information necessary, but don't anticipate a vote this evening. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tyler. We really
Thanks,
appreciate
everyone.
it.
Thank you.
Tyler.
Thank you. Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Michelle, could you bring in Mr. Lee?
Sure.
Ben, good
Welcome
evening.
back.
Welcome back. Good evening, Ben. How are you?
Very well. And yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming in tonight. Appreciate your application. If you want to take a minute or two just to tell us a little bit about yourself in the form of an opening statement and why you decided to apply for the vacancy.
Sure, I appreciate that. So I've been a longtime advocate of improving not only the access of power to people who don't have good access to it, but also the effort that many towns are making to try and move to as much renewable sources as possible. I'm really proud to be part of Hingham and see what we've done here and all of the credits we've purchased and all of the things that we've done along those efforts. I'm also really proud with all of the work that you guys have done on the town board to approve a lot of the things that the light board has put forward, including some of the solar projects that are coming up and some of the great efforts that have already been accomplished. So seeing that there was a vacancy and listening to some of the board meetings and hearing some of the things that are happening, just thought it would be great to have an extra voice and see if I can plant little seeds that lead to a better tomorrow for not only our community, but Massachusetts in general.
Ben, thank you very much. Let me turn over to my colleagues for questions. We'll start with Michael.
Hey, good evening, Ben. My question is, in order to maintain reasonable rates, reliability, and build resilience, HMLP and the New England Power Grid face a number of challenges as we endeavor to chart a course to our town's 2040 net zero goal. What are these challenges, and what distinguishes your experience to take the helm as a commissioner in this ever-evolving electrification day and age?
That's a great question, Michael. Thank you so much. So I don't have a huge amount of experience specifically for this specific type of board position. But one of the things that I'm passionate about is digging into the details, finding out what other not only municipalities, but other states and other countries have done that have been successful to accomplish what you're trying to do here in the town, right? Many countries have moved towards offshore wind farms and other types of renewable energy that require significant infrastructure upgrades in order to achieve that. In fact, just recently, I think we were talking on the Light Board about the infrastructure changes that need to happen within our community in order to support the goal to reduce carbon emissions. Last week, or the last meeting, the Wellesley team came and shared a bunch of things they've done, which I thought were in line with what I've seen in California and other places I've lived. Mm-hmm. And I thought those were great ideas that hopefully we can adopt here in Hingham. But ultimately, it has to be a community decision to try and overcome things like, aging power systems, transformers that can't handle the feed. We have some customers that are likely would desire to over-generate and feed back into the system, right? And that in and of itself has its own challenges. So there's a lot of technical things to overcome, but first you have to change the mind of the community. And I think Hingham has done a pretty good job, but you have to get the community to agree that it's worth the investment, because that's ultimately where the money has to come from.
Thank you.
All right.
Great. Ben, thank you so much for being willing to step up and volunteer for the town. We really appreciate your willingness. And I just wanted to ask you what you feel is your most significant either talent or interest or experience from your life that you would bring to this job in particular.
That's a great question. So I have a very technical background and have spent many, many years coming from a town in California that had its own light plant, watching and listening to their light board and watching and observing the things that we did to move from coal to gas, and now pushing as much as possible to municipal derived solar and wind farms that are highly available in California. I really think that me having been interested and passionate about that for many years, probably the last 30 years, I've been really paying attention to it. I think I can hopefully bring some value in not only researching what we intend to do here in town, but maybe even challenging some of the ideas that maybe haven't succeeded elsewhere, and things that I've seen and read. So plus a general love for technology. So hopefully that can help.
Definitely. Thank you.
Laura, thank you. Joe.
Yeah, so I'm going to do what I did previously, which is for the prior applicant. I have a question, but I also had an issue in terms of what information we know. So I believe we only have the Talent Bank application for Ben and not his work experience or any other pertinent information. So Tom, is that something that I'm missing, or is it something that you just don't have?
I don't have it. Doesn't mean it wasn't submitted. Ben, I don't know if you've submitted a more in-depth resume or.
I did not. I didn't actually see that in the options, but I should have.
No, we can reach out, Joe, and get them from all the applicants and distribute them.
Sure. But Ben, if you could just share with us your work history.
You bet. So straight out of college, I got a great opportunity at the Walt Disney Company and worked there for 10 years in Southern California. I was head of infrastructure management for the IT department at the Walt Disney Studios. From there, I moved to a nonprofit organization that was a payer, not a payer, sorry. We did grants for healthcare management and health-related issues in California. And then I moved out of infrastructure and management and on a whim, went into technology sales. And I find myself now as an architect of the product that we sell, which is digital flash storage for large companies.
Got it. So I really wish we met when you were Walt Disney. We could all take advantage of those discounts that I'm sure you had.
They've changed the rules a lot since then, so it's fine.
But that IT infrastructure must be something major. I can only imagine.
Yes. So my question was actually rather technical. So it concerns the way municipal light plants raise capital, which is by setting their depreciation rate, the depreciation expense, which under state law is set at 3%, although the town has the ability, or the municipal light plant has the ability to petition the Department of Public Utilities for an increase. And in the past, we have done that petition to increase it from 3% to 5%. And my question was, to what extent you think the change in the depreciation rate from 3% to 5% is sufficient, whether you see it going forward at that same rate, recognizing that the depreciation expense is the mechanism by which necessary capital can be raised for capital replacement and expansion.
To be very, very honest, I would be inadequately prepared to answer that question, Joe.
Sure.
But it's shocking and impressive that we've been able to get that exception in order to change that depreciation rate. Honestly, I wholeheartedly believe that the fact that we have a municipal light system and the ability to make changes that other customers who don't have this flexibility, I really think that if increasing that percentage is net beneficial over the course of the next 10 years and 20 years for not just us, but also the future residents of Hingham, we should do whatever it takes to make that possible, to the extent at which the town and the ratepayers are willing to.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Liz.
Thanks, Bill. And thank you, Ben, for applying and being willing to serve the town. We certainly appreciate it. Along the lines of Michael's earlier question, how do you see the Municipal Light Board playing a role in meeting Hingham's climate action and carbon neutrality goals?
That's a great question. I think, as a light board, there's a lot of conversations and a lot of policy that has to be set in order to achieve what the town has decided to do, right? I see the light board as the executors of what the town has decided to do at large. And so being that so much of the net carbon footprint really is dependent upon electricity and electricity generation, I see the light board as being critical to meeting any of the goals that the town has set. Yes, there's transportation and there's a couple other, major factors, but really it comes down to the light board to dramatically impact the environment. Sure, there's, businesses and things that contribute to environmental pollution, but in large part, getting rid of oil out of people's basements, getting rid of, even where possible, maybe natural gas, although it's much better than oil. These are things that we can do as a community to really bolster, not only the awareness of environmental issues, but also, some of the rebate programs and things that are being discussed, just stemming the loss of energy through, thermal protection of our homes. It's shocking. We all live in beautiful old homes here in Hingham. We're very fortunate, but many of those homes are contributing to the pollution without them even knowing it because of these things. So there's a lot that the light board is responsible for and can do to effectualize those changes. Excellent.
Thank you.
Ben, and my final question for you is, the focus of the light plant and the board has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. Where do you see HMLP 10 years from now? And what will the needs of the plant be?
That's interesting. I don't know enough about the changes, having been here in the town only 3 years. I don't know as much of the changes as you are alluding to, but I do see the light board as the opportunity to be kind of the poster child of the changes that we can make as a community, but also we can take and spotlight homes that have, improved and give everyone who's interested a chance to see what not only they can do to save energy and therefore save money within their own bills, but also kind of be that beacon that can report back to the town all of the changes and the improvements that have been taken, right? I really think that rebate programs and things like that, we should actually analyze before and after rates, not rates, but usage, right? And things like that to really help not only the town understand the value of the investment that has been made, but also each individual homeowner to understand how much they can potentially save over time. So I hope that answers the question, but I really see the light plant not only modernizing, right, and being able to make more information available. We have digital invoices, which is great, but the ability to provide more feedback. My town in California had a great online website. You could just go see your usage month over month, year over year, and get a really good idea of how things have changed for you. Alerts from the light plant saying, hey, we noticed that you've consumed significantly more this month. Perhaps you have devices that haven't been turned off or something like that. I really see the light plant becoming more part of people's everyday thought process because there's so much information that we can provide back to the consumer if we take that data and make it available to them.
Ben, thank you very much. Does anybody have any additional questions for Ben?
No.
All right, seeing none. Ben, if you'd like to take a minute or two to do a closing statement and discuss anything we didn't ask you about or anything else you want to tell us.
I appreciate that. In an effort to get you guys onto the next topic, I'll defer, but I do want to say hi to Nez. I saw your picture out there, and it's good to see a neighbor online here. But if anybody has any last questions, I'll give you a chance.
Ben, thank you very much.
This is definitely where to see your neighbors online. You've come to the right place.
Right? Didn't expect it. You should have just come over, Ness. We could have done this together. All right, guys.
All right, Ben, thanks very much. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Good speaking with you. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to make the recommendation. Tom, if you or someone from your office or your staff could reach out to both Ben and Tyler and get their CVs and distribute that to to me, Joe, Liz, Laura, and Michael, that'd be great. And if you don't mind too, if somebody could reach out to Mr. Bulman and see if something came up unexpectedly this evening or if he's still interested or not, that'd be great too. And if he's still interested, we can discuss possibly interviewing him on the 23rd.
Okay, absolutely. Yep.
And I would just offer this up for consideration to everybody. I'd like to take some time to think about our applicants tonight. I thought they both did a great job. But I'd like to look at their CVs and maybe think about their answers, maybe watch this video again. But how do people feel about holding off the vote? And I think we can get together again on August 23rd. But let me just ask Laura first and then Michael and everybody else.
That is fine with me.
Michael, what are your thoughts?
I'm happy with that, absolutely.
Okay, Liz?
I think that makes sense too. Thank you.
And Joe?
I agree. Makes sense.
Okay, so we have consensus. And so Laura, Michael, I think you're not available again to the 23rd. Is that correct?
Well, we're probably available sometimes between now and the 23rd.
Well, in terms of Tuesday night.
Well, I can't say for sure, but if there's a need, then, ask us and we'll see if we can make it.
Okay.
I know, Mike, you had some.
Yeah, I mean, we're both traveling up to Vermont.
Right, we're going to the New England Public Power Association meeting.
That is a Tuesday, I believe.
That covers a Tuesday, but not next Tuesday, the Tuesday after.
So we're not planning on meeting next Tuesday. So it would be then.
But the actual truth is, we could probably figure out how to get online and have a meeting from Vermont if we had to.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we plan on the 23rd? If there's a need to meet before then we can discuss it.
Yeah.
you and I can discuss it. But what I'll do if Tom, if you could put this on our agenda for the 23rd at this point, and we need to move it out, we can do that as well.
Can do.
Yeah, and the next light plant board meeting is the following Tuesday, which would be the 30th, I believe.
Oh, great. So you'll hopefully have a member, new member by that time.
Yeah.
Michael, Laura, always a pleasure. Thanks for all you guys
Okay.
do. Very much
Thank you
appreciate
very
your
much.
work on HMLP.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Hingham Municipal Light Plant Board.
So moved.
Second, all in favor by roll call. Mike?
Yes, aye.
Laura, aye. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Have a great night.
See you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, next item on the agenda is a discussion of public outreach education strategy for the November 1st, 2022 special town meeting, public safety, facility, and Foster Elementary School projects. So, Tom, you going to run point on this?
I will, yep. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So I'll go through this. There's not a lot here. We just wanted to, obviously, we have a very important town meeting coming up here in November. I just wanted to, we needed to make sure that we have a coordinated outreach effort to the community so that the community feels informed going into the decisions that they'll have to make at town meeting on November 1st. So to that end, we just put together a little outreach plan, communication outreach plan that we thought we would share with you folks and the town. There we go. So goals of the outreach plan are really to educate the public in advance of said meeting. We are going to attempt to we're going to hold several public information sessions as well as tour dates. We'll have open houses. We're going to review programmatic deficiencies as identified in the existing facilities, as well as walk everybody through what the proposed facility is and how that will solve those problems. We'll project costs and tax impacts in depth. And we'll discuss site considerations and the permitting status. Right now, both projects are actively in the permitting phase. So as we get through here the fall and heading into September, we should start to hear, we should start to get some of that effort wrapping up, and we'll know more about permitting status, et cetera. And then who knows, there might be some additional items that are identified that we feel are important for the town to be aware. And again, we'll put that all together. So just as a very brief background, back in July, the select board voted to hold a special town meeting on November 1st, followed immediately by the town election on November 8th, on which we have placed the debt exclusion questions that will be taken up at the special town meeting on November 1st. Those questions include, does the town want to raise funds for the construction of a new Foster Elementary School? And do we want to raise funds to construct a new public safety facility? There is a third article, and I'll read it here to make sure that we get it accurate, but I'll explain it in a second. So we're going to ask if we want to transfer available reserves into a capital project cost and debt service stabilization fund for excluded debt payments and or bonds issued for the new Foster Elementary School and public safety facility. What we're saying there is we have excess fund balance that we have been planning for years to use to offset the tax impact of those two projects. And this will be to create a fund that we can then roll that money into in future town meetings as we feel is appropriate into a stabilization fund to offset the tax impacts of those projects. Real quick, there's a little bit of history here with each of the projects that we're talking about. Foster Elementary has been to town meeting 3 different times. In 2017, the town established a school building committee and funded a feasibility study, which is all part of the MSBA core program. In 2020, some additional funds were necessary to complete that feasibility study. And in 22, the town meeting actually authorized funds for design and pre-construction documents. So that all has happened. Foster has been through successfully been through town meeting at 3 different stages to date. The public safety facility started out in 2020 with authorization for funds to study and create some conceptual design documents. And then we also, at that same meeting, created the building committee. And in 2020, at a special town meeting in the fall, you'll remember that the town authorized the town to purchase, or town meeting authorized the town to purchase the planned location for this building over at 335 Lincoln Street up on Route 3A. We have at the 21 annual town meeting, we got some funds for schematic design and design development. And then in 22, we got the next round of funds for the pre-construction bid documents. So the public safety facility also has been successfully through town meeting at 4 different stages. And the senior center renovation project back in 2020 also received authorization to borrow funds for to produce design documents related to the construction or renovation of the senior center and the space that is occupied currently by the police department. The plan there, as we've stated, is that should the public safety facility pass a town meeting and the police department eventually vacate the location here at Town Hall, we would redesign that space to accommodate an expanded senior center, as well as potentially a few other items or expansion of different other services that we might want to take into account, including potentially the expansion of the school department administration, which is right now just suffering for space. They are squeezed tight over there. So if we can alleviate some pressure from that with using the vacated police department space, we would endeavor to do so. Then there's the outreach plan. So this is what we're here to talk about today. We have several press releases that we will be engaging in throughout the course of the next few months in the lead up to town meeting. We'll be announcing major milestones, reminding everybody of the key dates that are upcoming. And again, that will happen right through from now, right straight through October in the ramp up to the November 1st meeting. Then we'll have, we're going to commission a full video to be produced that will be available on our website, at Harbor Media and other places. And that will explain in detail the existing programmatic challenges of the existing buildings, as well as the benefits of the new facilities and how they'll solve those problems. It'll obviously feature the Foster School, the new fire station, the North Fire Station, Police Center, and the senior center. We'll ask different town officials and architects and designers, et cetera, building committee members potentially, all to play a role in the development of that video, so that again, it's another resource for the public to have in order to feel fully informed heading into the meeting. And one of the other endeavors that we're going to undertake here in the ramp up to town meeting, again, this August through October window, is to ask a pointed question each week between now and town meeting, again, aimed at fully informing the public as to their responsibility at town meeting. So we will release a question each week. We will answer that question via a video and or infographics and text as needed. And they'll be gauged or created to really explain to the public the important questions that the public is going to have. So so we'll endeavor to take that on here starting this week and then running straight through the end of October. We're going to have several in-person and virtual sessions to explain again the plan to the public in advance of the meeting. We're going to hold 3 public information sessions all in October. There'll be a mix of in-person and Zoom. We're going to have public information session, a public information session here at Town Hall. We're hoping to have one over at one of the schools. I think we had spoken with Dr. Adams about potentially the middle school as a location for that. And then we'll do one by Zoom for folks that either aren't comfortable or can't make it in person. In addition to that, we're going to offer open houses on 5 different dates in October, so that the public can, if they wanted to again better understand the need and the projects, they'll be able to come in and walk through the Foster Elementary School, the North Fire Station, the Police Department, as well as the Senior Center. We're going to offer those 5 different times, or those open houses 5 different times, and we'll spread them across daytime hours, evening hours. We'll even offer Saturday, so that people can come through and see those when it's convenient for them. The team that will be putting all this work together, obviously with me and my staff up here in the 3rd floor at Town Hall. Then we have the school administration will be front and center. We've had a couple of conversations to date with the school administration. The new superintendent, Dr. Adams, has been very helpful and engaged, as well as her staff. We'll be engaging different boards and committee members across the spectrum. To help us with these weekly videos and questionnaires and the like, and getting proper answers to the questions that the town's going to have. We'll be engaging with the architects and the owners project managers that both projects have engaged. And then we're going to attempt to portray all the information we get out to the public in a very professional way by using our communications professionals that we have now available to us. And for us, that's JGPR, which is a communications consultant. And for the school department, they've hired a woman named Heather Cashman, who is their media and communication specialist and is on staff over there. So again, we've started these conversations. We've had several of them, and everything has been very collaborative. And I'm really looking forward to getting our first project out this coming Friday. So how are we going to get the message out to everybody? Well, there's a number of different avenues that we'll use. Some of the primary ones, of course, will be, I just talked about the information sessions and the facility tours, but there'll be regular email blasts. We have thousands of people that have registered for notifications through the town website. People can continue to do that, and they will get these notices going forward through email. We'll also make everything that we do available through social media. And of course, our town website is also a great resource for folks. There'll be some supporting media that we'll engage with along the way. Harbor Media will play a big role in informing the public of our plans. We'll do some direct mailings, perhaps flyers and posters. You'll see different things from an educational standpoint at different locations across the town. And then we'll have we'll engage with the newspapers accordingly, TV stations if they're so interested, and those folks will help us as they can. And then, of course, meetings like this. This is also a way to get word out to the public. So we'll continue to do all of this in as public a way as possible, and we really want to just make sure that the public feels as informed as possible going into the meeting on November 1st. This is just a slide to show some of the early renderings, the proposed renderings for the 2 projects. You have Foster Elementary on the top and the new public safety facility down on the bottom there. So that all said, I'm happy to take any questions. There's no vote for you all tonight. We just wanted to make sure that you are aware of our plans to inform the public in advance of the special town meeting.
Tom, thank you very much. Let me see if anybody on the board has any questions. Liz.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Tom, for putting this presentation together, and more importantly, the plan together. I think we all agree that we need to communicate early and often to make sure that citizens are well informed going into November 1st. So I love what you have here. Look forward to working with you to make this happen and seeing it happen. One thing that I'd like to think about in terms of meeting that goal of successfully educating the citizens is just setting some metrics, what we mean by that, and kind of tracking our progress towards that goal. Whether that's the number of people that we reach, the number of people that attend our information sessions and tours, even looking at the email, analytics, website, Facebook, the anchor probably could even, give us some insight into how many people see their articles, things like that. I'd like to just think through, what are some of those metrics that we can set and really start tracking against.
Can do, absolutely. It's a great idea, and absolutely something that we'll be doing it anyway. So tracking that data along the way will be an automatic. So that's a great suggestion.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Liz. Joe?
Yes, Tom, thank you for the presentation and all the work that went into it. Following up on a couple items. First, this may be implicit in what you've presented, but I would recommend that we have someone write periodic pieces that would be published on the Hingham Anchor. The Hingham Anchor is really a great way. I know you've got that listed as a way to reach out, but we should have articles written, prepared, that are going to be going out on a regular basis to the Hingham Anchor. And then second, following up on our prior discussion with HMLP, any thought about using inserts into HMLP bills as a way of doing a direct mail to our residents?
Yeah, absolutely. I was afraid one of you was going to ask me where I was getting money to do direct mailings. The reality is we would do that, so we didn't, because we don't have any.
Exactly. Okay.
So yeah, thank you, Joe. That's exactly
that would be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But you've got a plan, and I really support Liz's suggestion of getting metrics. That would be great. Good.
Will do.
Thank you.
You bet.
Joe, thank you. Let me see if anybody from the public has any questions or comments. If you could just raise your hand, either physically or virtually. Okay, I don't see anyone. All right, Tom, very much appreciate the presentation and the work that you and your staff put into that, and looking forward to the outreach program that's going to be forthcoming next couple weeks and months.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bill.
All right, have a great night. Thanks, Tom. All right, next item on the agenda is discussion of property tax relief, the senior means tested tax exemption update and outreach. And I know I see Josh Ross on the phone, on the call tonight. Josh, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We have Michelle as well. And I think, Michelle, do you want to start us off? And then Josh, you can add as well.
That sounds.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
All right. Can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Josh and I are here tonight to give the board and the public an update about some of our property tax relief efforts. We put together a tax relief team that's been working on this over the last few weeks, and we've been focusing on the senior means tested tax exemption, which is a new exemption that the town put in place a few years ago. And you just heard Tom talk about the outreach plan ahead of the fall special town meeting. Well, our team has been working to make sure that folks know what property tax exemptions we have available in town and what other tax relief programs are out there for those folks who need it the most. And I think Josh is going to start us off.
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. I've given this presentation to the Senior Center probably a couple of months ago now. And I know there's a lot of, sometimes there's confusion between what the state is offering and what the town is offering. So the way I look at it or try to explain it is the state's exemption is for income tax and Hingham's exemption is for property tax. So, as we start using senior means and circuit breaker, it gets kind of confusing. So that's sort of a high level overview when we talk about this stuff, just to make it a little bit easier for those watching. As Michelle said, this is a new property tax exemption that was created at town meeting in 2019. And then special legislation passed it in January 2021. And it was first implemented last summer and fall. That's when we first started getting applications. So the eligibility for this is listed here and starts off with age. So you must be 65 and older. A co-owner must be 60 or older by December 31st, 2021. You must have owned and occupied a residence in Hingham for at least 10 consecutive years. The income requirements or limitations for 2021 cannot exceed 62,000 for singles, 78 for head of household, or 93 for married couples filing jointly. Assessed value, the limit is 884,000. That's an important number because it's one of the metrics we used when we put together our targeted list that Michelle will talk about in a minute. The assets, this is a little broad. The applicants must not have excessive assets as determined by the Board of Assessors. So to give you guys a quick example, we did have an applicant last year who qualified for almost all of the requirements, but one of the things that stood out was this person had 3 homes in Hingham, and so we felt it wasn't in the spirit of the program to approve a situation like that. So when we talk about the numbers specifically on who applied and who got approved, those are the type of things that we saw for the folks that didn't get approved, just to give you guys an idea. And then the state tax return, they must have claimed the state circuit breaker tax credit for this past year as well. And so those are the requirements. What is the benefit of the new exemption? So it's tied to the state circuit breaker, as we said. And so, as I mentioned before, the state circuit breaker is strictly for income tax purposes. The benefit for this year is $1,170 set by the state. I'll also add, recently our state Senator O'Connor put an amendment forth to increase that to $2,340 back in June. And although it did have bipartisan support in the state Senate, it didn't pass. But all indications is that he will continue to try to get this number increased. So it's just something to think about going forward, that this number may increase by the state, which will then tie to Hingham's number, which leads us to the role of the select board. Once the Board of Assessors presents the slate of applicants, then the select board determines between what percentage, 50 or 100%, that you will approve to get credited to those folks. The applications are due September 1st of this year. And then if eligible, the credit will be applied to December 2022's tax bill.
I'm just going to add on one thing here, Josh, just to put
Sure.
that. So the maximum available is the 1170, like he said, and just to put that in perspective, the average tax bill in FY22 for single family homes was about 10,700, and the median tax bill was about 8,100. So that 1170 is pretty significant when you look at tax bills of that size.
Mm-hmm. So finally, some of the data that we've gotten, and this is, going back to 2019, is that total filers, as you can see, was 11,079. This past year, or 2 years ago, 2020, was 11,422, and those were preliminary. The number of filers claiming for a state circuit breaker were 450 in 19 and 435 in 2020. And you can see the percentage there. So one of the, as we start to pinpoint our efforts in really targeting the folks who could use this, now obviously one of the criteria is those who apply for and receive the state circuit breaker. So you can see this 450 here. But one of the things to keep in mind is that the state doesn't have a ownership requirement. So you could be a renter and still get this as part of that. So Hingham's rate is about 24% of renters. And so when we look at targeted residents, we put about 350. I will also add the caveat that those who also aren't included or who are excluded from this is if you own a home and it is in an irrevocable trust, you are excluded from this program as well. We have also seen some examples when we've kind of gone through the data that while folks over the age of 65 may live in the house, a few folks, we don't have the number, but there are a decent amount of folks who gift their houses to their children, so that's not in their name anymore. So I've seen some examples of that as we start to scrub the data. So even though we really target 350, I don't know if we're really going to know that true amount for another few years until we really start hitting home with the targeting mailings and outreach programs. So I'll turn it over to Michelle to kind of give us an update of where we were or where we are with the outreach programs and what we've done so far in the last couple of months.
Thanks, Josh. So a lot of what we just went through is extremely technical, and we got helpful feedback from some of the engaged residents in our group that it's too confusing and it's going to turn a lot of people off. Like in putting together this tax relief team, we tried to look at the information in the materials and figure out how to provide enough that people know what we're talking about, and make it a little bit more user-friendly and digestible. So our team consisted of me, members from the Board of Assessors, our assessing department staff, Elder Services, the chair of the Council on Aging, an engaged resident, and our communications consultants from JGPR. And what we were trying to boil our materials down to was basically, hey, the town created a new tax exemption for longtime seniors to help them to provide an additional resource for those folks. And these are the different communication channels that our team worked on a campaign in June, July, and August ahead of the September 1st deadline for this specific exemption to try to get the word out. This exemption is complicated because, as Josh explains, it's tied to something that you have to claim on your state tax income return before being able to qualify for Hingham's local exemption. All of our other programs in town don't work this way, but the benefit of this is that you can qualify for this local exemption and another one that's offered by Hingham, but that's available statutorily through the state. So we have used social media, flyers and posters in a lot of town departments here, specifically focused in assessing, treasury, the senior center, places that people may come in and want to ask questions about this. Through our senior center outreach coordinator, they also went to the food pantry and houses of worship in Hingham to try to get the word out. This month, we're working on some Harbor Media PSAs. We did do an early HMLP paper bill insert, and in next year's campaign, we'll look more at seeing if we can put something small in the tax bills themselves, because that's what it's directly related to. We've done a press release and some newspaper stories and op-eds. And we've also used the communication channels through the senior center. They've got a newsletter. The Board of Assessors did a joint event down there, kind of a lunch and learn for seniors to hear more about this program in particular. And we'll keep using email blasts, and we'll do a recorded phone message this month. But I think the big one, and Josh mentioned it, and he did the bulk of the work on this, was a targeted mailing. That's been really successful so far. So he, Josh, if you want to talk about your process, he cross-referenced 2 lists of people who qualified by age in town from the census data, I believe, and people who met the assessed value criteria. And we mailed one of our new flyers to those, roughly 1,800, 1,700 people in town. And what we've seen as a result of that, let's go to the next one, is, well, these are some of just examples of the flyers that we've worked with JGPR and the team to kind of revamp. So we sent the one on the left to everyone in that targeted mailing. And we also developed another one that you just see here on the right that lists all of the different exemptions and programs available through the town for people in all different categories. And the goal of all of these is to not necessarily give them every single piece of information, but enough so that the person says, hey, I might qualify for this, and at least direct them to the right place to call or stop in or email for help. So that is happening. So what we've seen to date, our assessing department's done a pretty good job of collecting some metrics. And I know Liz had just pointed those out for a different initiative that we're talking about. But last year, if you just look at the baseline, and keep in mind, last year was the very first year that we started this. So we had 24 total applications to the Board of Assessors and 20 were approved. And again, a lot of that, like Josh explained, is because of this assets criteria that's in place. But so far, we still have a month remaining before the deadline. We have 28 total applications, 9 of which are returning and 19 are new folks coming in this year. And since the targeted mailing went out in early July, there's been over 90 phone calls, over 40 applications mailed to people, and over 30 walk-ins with questions. That's in the assessing department. Our senior center outreach coordinator is also helping a number of people like learn the process, direct them to assessing to fill out applications. Because this is a two-step process where you need to have claimed something on your state tax return, some people are saying, I'm going to work with my tax preparer and file an amendment for this year. Others are saying, I'm going to make sure that I file for the state circuit breaker tax this coming year, and then I'll be eligible for Hingham in the future. So there's a little bit of, it's a two-step process. So I think we're going to continue to see these numbers hopefully grow over the next few years as we try to spread the word. But what we've heard from both departments is people are walking in with the flyer in hand that they got in the mail. So that's been the most effective so far. I know Tom mentioned about a mailing for the other initiative for the special town meeting and worrying about the cost. Because this was relatively small, the 1,700, we did it in-house. We printed them up here. Erin and her team, or the Treasury folded them. Erin and her team labeled and mailed them. So, with the exception of a little bit of extra postage, we were able to handle that and turn it around pretty quickly in-house. When people are calling or stopping in or engaging about this senior means tested tax exemption, staff is taking the opportunity to point them to all of the other programs that we offer. And for some people, this might help, maybe not them, but a family member. Sometimes we have people who come in who they themselves don't meet the age criteria, but their parents in town might and may not be connected to some of these channels to find the information. But the town offers a number of different programs, and Josh probably knows the details of these better than I do, but that range from, financial hardship to age-based ones. There's programs if you are a veteran, programs if you have a disability. We have 2 different types of tax work-off programs where you actually basically do different projects and tasks for town departments in exchange for a reduction in your tax bill. One is geared toward seniors, one is geared toward veterans, and we'll be working on other materials around those programs. And then one is the tax deferral program that I'm not sure many people know about. And that's where if you meet certain, if you're a senior, I think it's over 65 and meet certain criteria, you can actually defer 100% of your property taxes until your house is transferred or sold in the future. And I believe it accrues at like a 1% interest rate. So the town won't collect that until your house is transferred or sold, and then we'll get kind of those back taxes. But that's a major resource for some folks who find themselves in a very challenging spot. So we have focused our efforts right now, like I mentioned, on this new senior means tested tax exemption. All of these other programs, for the most part, are tied not to a September deadline, but to an April 1st deadline. So you'll see us over the winter and early spring kind of working on a second campaign ahead of, to get the word about all of these programs to folks who need. Thank you.
There you go.
Oh no. So we want to make sure, especially ahead of the special town meeting in the fall, when we're looking at these debt exclusion projects and an override potentially in the spring, that people know that these programs and resources exist. And if you have any questions, the place to go, the experts in our town are really our assessing staff. They kind of have the knowledge of all the different exemptions. If you call them up or stop in, I know this says if you're 65 and over for the new exemption, but really if you're any age at all, asking about yourself or a family member, they can kind of walk through your situation and help direct you to which programs or exemptions may make sense for you. I think that's it.
Excellent.
So can I just add a couple of things?
Yeah, of course.
So first, let me say the folks that were approved last year absolutely 100% needed it. I mean, there is absolutely no question that this program is set up for those folks in this town, and we just encourage people who think they may qualify to apply for it. I know there is also, and something that we've got to work on is there's a little bit of hesitancy. We've done in the the public safety has done such a good job in telling our seniors not to give out their information to people, that I know there is some hesitancy when it comes to turning over a lot of this personal information. And what I can say is that it is only seen in the Board of Assessors office. We actually tell people we don't need social security numbers. We don't need bank account numbers. We just need the numbers, the financial numbers and some other information. So, we want to try to get that across, as well as to kind of overcome the hesitancy, understandably, of turning over, your most personal financial information. I'll also say that, members of the assessor's office, we always say it, but are tremendous. And they go out and meet with, or have meetings with the other assessor's office around the South Shore and Plymouth County. And I'll tell you that hearing back from them is that we are really far ahead of any other town in Plymouth County on doing this stuff, which is good to hear, is that we're being really proactive with this. And so I hope we continue to be an example to other towns on that. And the last point, stuff that's come up is that there were a few examples this past couple of months where folks have reached out to us that it wasn't the stuff that we could deal with because it was more mortgage related. But we worked and reached out to both Representative Machino's office and Senator O'Connor's office, and they help as well around this issue. Now, it may not be a tax credit, but as we start talking of projects down the road, I know that they may be able to be a resource as we start doing things like this. So that's all I have. So
Great. Michelle and Josh, thank you very much for your work on this project. I think, my concern last year was awareness and creating awareness amongst our citizens that this program existed and that they should apply for it and they can benefit from it. So obviously a big focus of your work has been on creating awareness. And I very much appreciate your efforts. Josh, I know you spoke to the Senior Center. Michelle, I know you've been using a lot of different avenues and channels to get the word out there. And I know that other members of the community have helped you with that. So my appreciation to both of you for your work on this project.
Can I give a quick shout out, Bill? One of those members of the community, he probably doesn't want me to do this, but is on the line. And I just want to thank Glenn Mangurian for being one of the main engaged residents who's helped us. He's part of that team and kind of catalyzed us into thinking about this a little bit differently. So thank you, Glenn.
Yes, Glenn, thank you very much for all of your work and efforts here. All right, let me see if any of my colleagues have any questions. We'll start with Joe.
So really just a tremendous effort. Josh, you put in a lot and it shows. So thank you. And Michelle, you too. Glenn is a neighbor of mine, so I'm going to be careful not to compliment him too much. But really, it's a team effort, and this will only succeed through that joint effort with all of us. So thank you. Just a word of caution that I know you already are aware of, that the town needs to be careful not to be giving out tax advice or legal advice. We can certainly point people in the right direction and make sure they're aware. But our job is not to be serving as accountants or lawyers dealing with these complex situations. And it may be that, for example, the Senior Center has groups of volunteers who could serve in that capacity. And I suspect they do. But again, it's tremendous effort. Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe. Liz.
Yes, thank you, Josh and Michelle and Glenn and your entire working group. I know it was a lot of work and it shows. This is a tremendous outreach campaign. I know we identified this as a priority and you've made it happen. So thank you so much.
Outstanding. Thank you. Do any members of the public have any questions or comments? If you do, if you could just raise your hand virtually or physically. Okay, I don't see anyone. Again, my thanks to you, Michelle and Josh, for your hard work, and thanks for your presentation this evening.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is appointments. And I'm going to turn to my colleagues. Do anybody have any recommended appointments this evening?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to appoint Josh Blevins as an alternate member to the Historic Districts Commission, who resides in a historic district for a 3-year term ending June 30, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there a need for further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor by roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries. Anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Tom O'Reilly to the Naming Bylaw Committee.
I'll second that, and I do have a question. Is there a time limit on this appointment, or is it ongoing?
I think it's till they finish their work, right?
That's right. Yeah, this one was not given a back end. That's right.
They are indentured servants. So you got my second.
Right, motion made and seconded. Is there a need for further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor. Liz?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries. All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. Let me just see if anybody attending. Oh, Beth does have her hand up. Just going to ask for those who want to participate in public comment. Select Board encourages community engagement and welcomes questions and comments as agenda items are discussed at the meeting. We have set aside up to 15 minutes for public comment for items that fall in the purview of the Select Board and not on tonight's agenda. If any guest wishes to speak, just please raise your hand, seek to be recognized. Once recognized, just state your name and address for the record. Comments will be limited to approximately 3 minutes per speaker and must relate to topics within the scope and responsibilities of the Select Board. So I see Beth has her hand up. Michelle, if you could unmute Beth. And Beth, if you could just state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Hi, it's Beth Rockoff, 36 Pleasant Street. I'm asking your help again to understand the restrictions for the water ban. I know in the past I've asked about why wells are not included in the ban, and I find it really hard to understand, since the wells all come from the same aquifer, why, when we have such a severe shortage, we are not restricting everyone. We've now cut ourselves back to 1 day and certain time limits. And I see, signs up that say they have well water. And plus the fact I see the high school the past, couple of days when I've driven by in the middle of the day from 11 o'clock today until 1 o'clock when I drove back by, and the water was still going. And we have a time frame of, not until 10 o'clock and then not before, I believe, 6 o'clock. And I just need your help in understanding why the town is not required to obey by the same rules and why well water isn't included. Because I know, for example, when the shortage gets really bad, Pleasant Street gets our water from the well at the end of Downing Street.
So Beth, that's a very, very timely question, given the fact we're in a drought, and I agree with your concern. Tom, are you able to answer the question on the restrictions that want to refer to Russ?
So I would recommend that we not, just because it wasn't on the agenda tonight, but I have Beth's contact information. I can have Russ call you tomorrow, Beth.
But I think it's a town-wide issue. And, it's not just me. I think, we as a town are, trying to help out. We now own a water company and we have a severe drought. And, other towns, including Pembroke, had to do a complete ban. I think we need a town to come together and work together. And it's really upsetting to see, in my opinion, that our town individual services, for example, the school, doesn't seem to care.
Beth, thank you very much for your concern. You are 100% correct that we all need to come together to address the issue and the drought we're currently experiencing. So Tom, could you or maybe Russ reach out to Beth tomorrow and get more information to her?
Will do.
And just
you.
if I can follow up with Beth, I think her plea is Russ needs to follow up more than just with her. So if you can have Russ follow up with each member of the select board as well, that'd be great.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. All right. Right. Anybody, any other members of the public have any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Our next item on the agenda is Town Administrator Select Board Report. So we'll start with our Assistant Town Administrator this evening, and let's start with Michelle.
Nothing from me. Thanks, Bill.
Great. All right.
Nothing tonight, Bill. Thank you.
All right, Tom.
Just one real quick, it's whether we want to believe it or not, the next budget season has officially, I think, started, as evidenced by the fact that Michelle, Art, and I had the pleasure of our annual orientation meeting with the new advisory committee members today. It went very well. I think the town is going to be very well served by these 5 wonderful volunteers. A lot of great questions, a lot of information passed on, a little bit, I think, drinking from a fire hydrant, but that's all right. We're here for questions going forward, and I look forward to engaging with them as we enter the next budget cycle. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Tom, thank you. Any questions for Tom, Joe?
No,
Liz?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, we'll now turn to Select Board reports. Liz, you want to start us off tonight?
Nothing to report. Thank you, Bill.
nothing to report, but I do want to welcome Liz back from her trip.
Thank you. Thank you for holding down the fort while I was away.
Welcome back, Liz.
Thank you.
All right. We do not anticipate a meeting next week due to a couple members being away, but we will meet again the following week on the 16th, I believe is the date. So 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be back in session unless there's a pressing matter we have to address between that time. With that, then I would take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor, Joe,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. Hope everybody has a great week and stays cool. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
You.